you are thinking of joining this project and going through a course that is entitled The Ancient Greek Hero in 24 Hours, it may take you longer than 24 hours to get through it. But what I promise you is you'll get the experience of what it's like to be totally into a medium. In our course, it's not just the medium of epic. You get the chance to be part of the medium of tragedy as well, so that's a second kind of medium. Then there is history as practiced by Herodotus. Then there's Platonic dialogue. And then there's a very strange exercise in dialogue from a period known as the late antique, when people stopped being very self-conscious about talking about heroes. Because the earlier you go, the more heroic concepts are treated in a very reverential way. And the later you go, the more they're treated in a way that resembles our modern way of looking at heroes, where you can say objectively, oh, I see, so this is a matter of religion. People actually worship heroes. The characters we see in epic and drama and so on, those characters were actually worshipped by the people who heard the stories about them, the stories that told about their actions and what they said. So that's quite an adventure to go into a set of media like that. If you think of it in terms of taking a course, well, you could call it a great books course, because we read, obviously, the absolute greatest hits of the classical legacy in verbal arts. You read the Iliad and the Odyssey, you read 7 tragedies, you read 2 Platonic dialogues, you read huge chunks of Herodotus, the so-called father of history. And then you get a very good sample of what I just referred to earlier as late antique literature, which takes a kind of no-holds-barred approach to the religious aspects of the hero. So it's a very good, great books course. And if I were to be asked, well, people who go out of this experience, what did they get from it? I would say they got a very good liberal education in ancient Greek civilization. I would even add that in terms of somebody who's a paragon of the 5th century, and I'm thinking again of Herodotus, the so-called father of history, why Herodotus would say, if you know Homer, of course he would add Hesiod, and we do some Hesiod as well, but let's just stick to the basics. Herodotus would say, well, if you know Homer, if you know your Homer, in other words, if you know your Iliad and the Odyssey, essentially you're a civilized person. That civilizes you. So I can tell you, when I first started teaching a version of this course back in the late 70s, and people would come up to me and say, oh, there's so much going on in the Iliad, so many names, so many details, I'm getting stuck all the time. Can you suggest a handbook where I can get the proper background? I would say, look, reading the Iliad is the background. Reading the Odyssey after that is the background. And the whole point of what you're doing is reading it in such a way that you try to internalize everything that this medium is telling you. And this medium is very user-friendly. If you didn't get it once, you'll get it the next time or the next time, because it keeps reinforcing itself. The Iliad and the Odyssey are extremely user-friendly if you simply take the energy and you have the patience to go through it from beginning to end. 15,000 plus verses of the Iliad, 12,000 plus verses of the Odyssey. You go through them. And to go back to what Herodotus says in the 5th century BCE, if you've done that, you're civilized. That's pretty good. To be civilized the way one of the leading intellectuals of the classical period thought it took to be civilized, what can be better than that? And we can do it without having to learn the Greek language, without having to know Greek history, without having to know the basics of Greek literature, because we're trying to do it all at once, in translation, with keywords embedded in the translation, so that you You don't get tempted to read into the text. You keep reading out of the text, because these key words are some of the basic words of Greek civilization. I can go away saying that you, if you've participated in this, you are civilized by the standards of ancient Greek civilization. We are essentially making an attempt to engage with all of Greek civilization, even if we start with specific things that we hope will inspire people to go even further.